So, when you picture entrepreneurship, what comes to mind? Probably some high-stakes gamble, right? Something fueled by late nights, tons of caffeine, and pure gut instinct, where only the super lucky or like a certified genius actually makes it. It's the story we all hear, but what if that story is mostly a myth? What if there's a smarter way, a more reliable path to building a business? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
And this is probably the question that keeps every aspiring founder up at night. You've got this incredible, maybe even world-changing idea. But let's be real, history is just packed with amazing ideas that, well, they just fizzled out. So what's the secret sauce? What really separates a flash-in-the-pan idea from a business that sticks around, grows, and actually makes an impact?
Okay, so this slide really gets to the heart of it. It's the myth versus the method. Over on one side, you've got this romantic idea of how startups happen. It's all about intuition, that one lucky break, maybe just pure chaotic energy. But then, on the other side, you have a totally different way of looking at it, a methodical approach, one that's built on discipline, on process, and on a solid framework. And boom, here's the core idea from our source material. This quote from Bill Aulet at MIT just nails it. Entrepreneurship is not just art, it's also a science. And think about that for a second. This isn't about getting rid of the creative spark, not at all. It's about taking that art and pairing it with the rigor of science. Why? To seriously, dramatically boost your odds of actually succeeding.
So you're probably wondering, who is this Bill Aulet guy? Well, he's not just an academic. He's a super seasoned entrepreneur and a professor at MIT. And he started noticing a pattern. He saw that the most successful companies, whether they realized it or not, were following a structured path. So what did he do? He basically wrote it all down. He codified it into this awesome systematic playbook, a real guide to help you get through that crazy startup journey.
All right, first things first, we're laying the foundation. This is all about taking that raw idea of yours and figuring out if it's a real opportunity.
And here are the first 3 big steps. See the pattern? It's all about the customer, customer, customer. Seriously, before you get all wrapped up in your amazing product, you have to get completely obsessed with a specific market, really understand their pain points, and then be able to explain exactly how you're going to solve that pain.
Okay, let's talk about this number, 10x. This is so important. This is all about your value proposition. See, it's not enough to be just a little bit better than what's already out there. The whole idea here is that your solution needs to be at least 10 times better. 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, 10 times more effective, whatever it is. That's the kind of huge leap that actually makes people sit up, take notice, and decide to switch. And this right here is one of the coolest, most powerful ideas in the whole framework, the beachhead market. Think of it like a military strategy. Instead of trying to take over the whole world at once, which is impossible, you find one small, super focused group of customers. You solve their problem perfectly, and you absolutely dominate that little niche. And then, from that solid foothold, from that position of strength, then you can start to expand.
But hey, just having a great idea for a niche market, that's not quite enough. You've got to prove it. You have to show that this is actually a market worth going after. And that means you got to quantify the opportunity. You have to put some real numbers behind it to convince not just investors, but to convince yourself that this thing has legs.
So how do you do that? This is how. You start big with what's called the TAM, or total addressable market. That's like the entire pie, the whole global demand for what you do. Then you get more realistic. You narrow it down to your SAM, the part you can actually reach. And finally, you get to the most important one, your SOM. That's the slice of the pie you can realistically win. Doing this makes that huge, crazy dream suddenly feel way more tangible, way more achievable.
Okay, so our foundation is solid. Now it's time for phase 2, build, test, and grow. This is where we stop just planning and start doing. We're moving from opportunity to execution.
And one of the most critical tools here is the MVP, the minimum viable product. Now let's be clear, this is not your final, shiny, perfect product. No, it's the absolute simplest version you can possibly build to get it into the hands of actual customers. And its only job is to answer one question: do people actually want this thing? The whole point is to learn, not just to launch. So check out the next steps on this journey, and notice something really interesting here. Building the MVP actually comes after you design your business model. Think about it. You have to figure out how you're going to make money before you start building the product. Makes sense, right? After that, it's all about your go-to-market strategy. And this is the big one, figuring out how to scale up everything that's working.
And this is huge. This is what separates a cool little startup project from a truly scalable business. You can't just rely on one person's heroic efforts to make a sale or fix a problem. The real goal is to build systems. We're talking repeatable, predictable processes for everything: sales, marketing, operations, all the stuff that lets your business grow and grow without completely falling apart.
And just when you think you're done, you're not. The final, crucial step isn't really a step at all. It's more like a continuous loop. You have to constantly be measuring what's going on, testing all your assumptions, and tweaking your approach based on what the market is telling you. This disciplined cycle of iteration, that's the real engine that drives long-term success.
All right, so let's zoom out a bit as we start to wrap this up. We've talked about the playbook, the steps, but the most important piece of the puzzle is what's behind it all, the disciplined mindset. Because really, this is so much more than a checklist. It's a whole new way of thinking.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It's a direct shot at that whole myth of the chaotic startup genius. Success isn't some random lottery ticket. It's the result of a deliberate, structured process that's always getting better. It's about taming the chaos, not just living in it.
So what are the big things to remember from all this? First, entrepreneurship isn't some magical gift you're born with. It's a skill you can actually learn. Second, discipline isn't the enemy of creativity. It's what helps you reduce risk. Third, that constant cycle of iteration is what actually pushes you forward. And finally, it's all about finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance between your huge vision and a smart, methodical process.
And that brings us right here. The whole playbook, the framework, it's all laid out for you. So the question to ask yourself isn't, is my idea good enough? The real question is this: what's the very first disciplined, measurable step I can take, like right now, to actually find out?